morning, I want to begin to share you a story. Heard on American Life podcast. Reporter was doing a story on that actually happened a few years ago. A police officer, and this is actually in Benton Harbor, Michigan. He was a corrupt cop. He would fraudulently fill out police reports and arrest people without cause, and even plant drugs and plant evidence to convict them. And did this through his young, short career as a police officer, and it ended up affecting 61 people. And there were numerous people who went to jail, and one in particular gentleman went to jail for a false report of police drug possession, and spent 3 years in prison because of it. Eventually got caught up, and the corrupt cop was sought out and was himself convicted and punished for his crimes. Years go by, and that one gentleman was released from prison and exonerated of his crime, and finds himself working at a coffee shop. And lo and behold, at the same coffee shop was also working that police officer. Both needed a job, and that was the same place they ended up finding. And so they kind of had to learn to work with each other. And as time went on, those two ended up reconciling. The police officer himself came to confess his sins and his corruption, and actually got back into church, became a Christian, and admitted his fault and accepted his responsibility of how he destroyed the lives of so many people. And it became an opportunity for him to ask forgiveness to this man that he destroyed his life for 3 years, sent him to prison for nothing. And the two reconciled, and to the point where it kind of got a lot of media attention, and they even wrote a book together about reconciliation and forgiveness. And there was a big media blitz and buzz about what happened with these two men. It makes a good, heartfelt story. Well, the reporter of this one piece wanted to find those who did not forgive the police officer. And she would interview a couple people, and at the end of the story, basically, she makes this conclusion, especially this one particular gentleman who is just very, very still hurt and angry at this police officer, and maybe rightly so. I mean, you cannot blame him. He has a felony charge because of this one police officer, and unfortunately, he can't be exonerated. He doesn't want to forgive this man, and he will never forgive this man. And his kind of concluding remark is that, first of all, he says, quote, "Forgiveness is overrated." And his reasoning is because this man, he will never change. He's a corrupt cop, he's corrupt, he will always be corrupt, and if he was a police officer again, he would probably do it again. So why should I forgive him if he's going to be this person? And then the reporter at the end kind of makes her conclusion, and this is what she says, is that what's wrong holding grudges? We like the stories of forgiveness and reconciliation. It makes us feel good about ourselves, makes us feel good inside. But what's wrong not holding grudges? And then her comment, her quote is at the end that forgiveness, not forgiving someone, is what helps us keep us safe. End quote. Now I want you to think about it. Let that sink in. And my reaction to that was, and to be, I guess I'm kind of surprised, is that I wasn't surprised of that conclusion. And the whole point of the piece was to report on something, to share something that, the most popular media wants to share the good story of reconciliation and forgiveness and people coming together. We do like the stories, and as Christians and as a community of Christ, yes, we strive for that. We preach that. But the truth is, out in the world, most people really don't want to forgive. Feel like they shouldn't have to forgive. And let's be honest, I think there's a lot of us here who already don't want to forgive someone. I'm sure all of us have someone in our lives that hurt us, that sinned against crushed us, and we don't really want to reconcile with them. Not to the point like we saw with those two gentlemen of coming together and burying the hatchet and embodying in that peace as brothers. My point is, I think we all struggle with this. So I'm not surprised by that news report. She's just verbalizing what I think a lot of people already are saying to themselves. Yeah, it's easy to forgive people if it was a simple mistake, a slip up, a bad judgment, bad choice. But there are times when we are utterly harmed. And the last thing we want to do is forgive. But the danger of not forgiving is not going to keep us safe. When we don't forgive, it becomes a poison in our body. And you can kind of sense it through that interview, especially the one other gentleman who refused to forgive. He was bitter and he was angry. He's not happy. He's never going to be happy. He's never going to have peace. And I know we can't go back and change the past. He has got to suffer for what this one gentleman did. But if he holds on to that grudge, he will remain miserable in his life. But more than that, we don't forgive so it makes us feel good. We don't forgive because it's therapy. The real reason we forgive is because ultimately God has forgiven all of us. When he didn't have to, maybe I can put it this way, maybe he shouldn't have. Because we deserve to be judged. We deserve to be punished because of our sins. But out of great mercy for us, God sent his Son, who died on the cross to pay our sins. That's what our forgiveness is built on. Not that God just let it go, but he sent his Son to go to the cross to pay the price. Every day we live in a sense of mercy, God's grace, his love, because of Jesus. What's happening in that moment is that we're recognizing that, yes, God has also forgiven you. Jesus went to the cross for you. And so I forgive you. So looking at our stories, we continue with Jacob. And as I left off last Sunday, Jacob is working himself out to be a very scandalous guy, not a nice brother. We saw what he did to Esau on two different occasions, that trickery of stealing his birthright, and also stealing that inheritance, that birthright, that blessing from Isaac. And he tricked his brother, he tricked his father. And now Jacob is on the run. He leaves his land, his family, and then ends up heading to live with his uncle Laban. And when he gets there, again, he's a young man, and as he kind of gets settled down, he's going to work for his uncle, who was a sheep herder, and he notices that his uncle has two good-looking daughters. Well, back up. He has one good-looking daughter. It's the younger daughter. Her name is Rachel. Laban has another daughter, an older daughter, Leah. Nice girl, I'm sure, but very plain, holy kind of girl. Not very attractive, but Jacob was smitten for this Rachel girl. And he goes to his uncle and says, listen, I'll make a bargain with you. I will work for you 7 years. And if I work faithfully for you 7 years, would you promise me that I can marry your daughter Rachel? And Laban agreed to the terms. And so 7 years go by, and he worked faithfully for his uncle and as a sheep herder and raised the sheep and watching over sheep. 7 years goes by, he committed what he promised to do, and his future father says, yes, you may have my daughter to marry. In the course of the wedding, and events, the customs, and the culture, when it was all said and done, he didn't marry Rachel, and married, I was going to say ugly daughter, but that would be mean, so I'm not going to say that, but the plain daughter, the Leah, who he was not attracted to or interested in. Before he realized he was already blessed to that marriage, to his horror, he sees, I married the wrong daughter. So it's kind of like a nice poetic justice there that the trickster got tricked himself and then married the wrong daughter. So he goes back to his uncle and says, listen, you messed up, but I will work another 7 years if you can promise me I can marry Rachel. And his uncle said, sure. And so now we get to the point where now, and this is not good, now he's married to 2 daughters because he didn't like the first one. And when we go back here, the title of my sermon is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The good person through this whole course is really Leah. I always feel bad for her. She didn't ask to share a husband with her sister. I don't think she really asked for much, and she was kind of, she just kind of became a rag to everyone else's problems. But God did bless her by giving her sons. And through that course of that marriage, Leah was starting to have a lot of children with her husband, Jacob. But Rachel wasn't. And Rachel, being the younger sister, I always kind of take her as, the older sisters are usually the wise, motherly type of person, and the younger sister is usually the wildcat, the one who can't take responsibilities. And so I always imagine Rachel, she could never get children, and she was always frustrated, and she was jealous of her sister, who was having these sons being born unto Jacob. But eventually, God remembered Rachel, and she had 2 sons. And this is a good trivia question. Who are the 2 sons of Rachel and Jacob? Ooh. Joseph and, you knew that, right? And Benjamin. And these 2 are going to come up later, so kind of foreshadowing of what's yet to come. And then, of course, Leah had 10 sons and a daughter. And I always feel bad about the 1 daughter and the 12 sons of Jacob. And that will come up much later too. So there we have, this is why we have the 12 sons of Israel, or 12 sons of Jacob. These boys, these men will eventually come and form the premise of the nation of Israel from the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, as Jacob was in his relationships with his 2 wives and raising sons and children, he also became very successful in raising sheep. And he, working with his uncle, helped his uncle raise those sheep. But what he ended up doing was trick his own uncle by through the breeding and raising the sheep. He always made sure he got the better sheep, and that his uncle got the weak and deformed sheep. And Laban also wasn't very careful of watching his flocks and watching his own sheep, and unfortunately trusting his son-in-law and nephew to care for his sheep. He realized that what he was doing, and that in time Jacob became very, very wealthy with a great herd of sheep. That his uncle finally said to him, you need to leave. You're destroying my business. So once again, Jacob is burning bridges everywhere he goes. He's now upset his uncle. He's tricked out his uncle. He's deceived his uncle. But he's done well for himself. He has 12 sons, 2 wives, has many servants and maidservants, lots of sheep and animals and herds. He is very successful. He's a very wealthy man. But he's built this wealth in a way through corruption and deceit, trickery, and just downright being mean. And this has been Jacob's life since he was a young boy. He's smart, he's cunning, he just isn't a nice guy. Well, now he's lost another home. So everyone has to pack up their stuff. He can only go one other place, and that's back home, where his brother is. And he's not too sure how his brother's going to react. But as they're heading out there, along the way, he goes up to this mountainside. And also he's visited by this mysterious person, as the Bible describes it. He's the angel of the Lord. And basically what this person is, it's just not just some angel that came to visit Jacob, but this is really God himself. Before his incarnation, God himself coming to Jacob. And they end up fighting. They end up wrestling on top of that mountain. And they wrestle all night long for many hours. And as you read that through the scriptures, you really kind of conclude that this is what Jacob has been doing all his life. He hasn't really been fighting. He has been fighting with other people. He's been struggling with other people. But ultimately, he's been fighting with God. And as I talked about last Sunday, the reason why we do the things we do, why we hurt other people, is because who wants to come first? We do. Our pride, our ego. And so he's wrestling there with God on the mountainside. And what God wants is say, Jacob, I just want you to follow me. I want you to believe with me. I want you to lay down your ego and follow my word. And Jacob doesn't want to do that. And so all night they wrestle. And finally at the end, God dislocates Jacob's hip. He hurts him, he injures him. But Jacob holds on, and this angel of the Lord, God's going to remove himself, he's going to leave it. But Jacob holds on to him and says, before you go, I want you to bless me. And this is the blessing he gives him. Now listen to this. He changes his name. He says, you are no longer Jacob, I'm going to call you Israel. So that's where the name Israel comes. But what Israel means is the one who struggles with God. And he tells us that you are called Israel because you struggle with me, but you prevail. Now that is not to mean that Jacob, through his kindness and his craftiness and his might and his strength and his wealth, that somehow he was able to fight with God and win. He did not win. Do you think Jacob can beat God in a wrestling match? No. Do you think Bridget can beat me in a wrestling match? No. No, he can't. Don't think he can. But yet, God wrestles with him, he struggles with it, and I always imagine this is what my dad was doing with me when I was a little kid. I always want to fight with my dad because I want to prove my manliness, right? I want to show how tough and strong and powerful I was. And so my dad would wrestle with me, would go for several minutes, in my mind it was like for hours, but it was probably like for 10 minutes or something. But we would wrestle around the house. And my dad was like, oh, I'm falling my back. Oh, you got me now, you got me now. And all he had to do was just stand up and throw me off. But he didn't do that. He just played with it. And that's what God was doing. He was allowing the struggle, the fight go on, but at the end, God can destroy Jacob at any moment, but he doesn't. Jacob prevailed because of God's grace and mercy. Because the real struggle is going to come when? It's going to come on the cross. When Jesus will come. And he will stand before his Father, and there God will judge mankind. And he will judge all the sins of Jacob, and of his fathers, and of his sons, and all the generations that proceed from them. That's where God's going to take the fight. Not with Jacob, but he's going to take it to his son on the cross. That's the blessing of Jacob. even though he struggles with God, he will prevail. The Israel nation will prevail. Mankind will prevail because of the love of God. Eventually, Jacob leaves from that site, and with his family, his servants, all his stuff, he heads back home. And he's still worried about what his brother's going to do, but he's going to be taught a wonderful message of what forgiveness is. Because when he makes it back home, and he bows before his brother, and he submits himself to his brother and begs for mercy, his brother right away picks him up and embraces him out of love. Because he has forgiven his brother. Probably forgave his brother a long time ago. And would prefer that his brother be home with him. See, that's what forgiveness is all about. That's why God has given us forgiveness. That's why when we talk about being the peace of God, it means that God has forgiven us. We see that so clearly displayed between Jacob and Esau. A man, Jacob, who has deceived people and tricked people and has been unkind to people, unfair to people. In the end, he's the one that's forgiven. He doesn't deserve it. But yet, mercy, he has been forgiven. And with that, he has a new family. A family that comes together. And again, that's exactly what God set out to do for us. We don't deserve it. And I know the people that have hurt us in our lives, they have not earned our forgiveness. But one person has. And that is Jesus. And that's why as we pray the Lord's Prayer, as we ask for God to forgive us, we need Him to lead us to forgive each other. Because we live in that forgiveness together because of Jesus. Amen.